During the entire time I was hospitalized, Liu Ruyuan took care of me with meticulous attention. She was so devoted that even the woman in the next bed couldn't help but admire her. Urging us to get married soon, even asking curiously when we planned to hold the wedding. I ignored it. I even frowned, waved my hand impatiently, and said, "We're just having fun. Why talk about marriage?" What Ruyuan didn't know was that I had already discovered she had activated couple mode in a game, with someone saved in her phone as Yi Dengcheng. That night, when she got up to get me some water and forgot to lock her phone, the screen lit up. I saw everything. The day I was discharged from the hospital was also the day the biggest snowstorm of the year swept through the city. Ruyuan wrapped a wool scarf she had knitted herself around my neck and smiled brightly. "You look like a silly little pig." I only frowned slightly and said nothing. She tilted her head, linked her arm with mine, and asked softly, "What's wrong? Are you unhappy?" I looked into her eyes, bright, as if they held an entire starry sky. A sense of confusion surged inside me. How could a woman so gentle, kind, and devoted betray me? Ruyuan's WeChat moments were filled with photos of me, because I suffered from chronic gastritis. This girl, who had been pampered since childhood and had never done housework, learned to cook all kinds of light, stomach-friendly meals. Every time I came home late from business dinners, she would complain a little, then still bring out a bowl of porridge she had prepared in advance. She was gentle, thoughtful, and always remembered what I liked to eat and use. She took care of everything at home so I could focus solely on work, without worrying about anything else. Last month, when I went to the Northeast with clients to inspect a project, Ruyuan couldn't come because of her studies. Even so, she called me for nearly half an hour, just to remind me to take care of my health. My friends often joked that her eyes were always on me. They called her sister-in-law, and said she was completely in love. Yet that very girl was bound in a virtual couple relationship in a video game, with a man I had never known. Yi Dengcheng. As of today, it had been 147 days since I discovered it. I didn't know why, but that day I suddenly craved spicy stir-fried chicken, something I was strictly forbidden to eat. Ruyuan gently advised against it and went into the kitchen to cook porridge instead. I sat at the dining table, watching her busy figure in the kitchen, then suddenly asked, "Ruyuan, it's been a long time since we played games together, hasn't it? How about logging in tonight and playing a few rounds with me?" She paused for just a second, then smiled and teased, "Sure, hubby, why the sudden interest today?" In fact, I hadn't played games for 2 or 3 years. Since my work had stabilized, I rarely touched them, not because I lacked interest or time, but because every time I opened the game interface, a sense of irritation and fatigue welled up inside me. Those days when Ruyuan and I immersed ourselves in games together felt distant now, once beautiful, now blurred like a vague dream. That night, my discomfort deepened when I realized she was using a secondary account to play with me. After losing a match, I tossed my phone onto the sofa. She only smiled gently and said softly, "Hubby, you're already good, I'm just bad at it. How about we do something else?" After dinner, she curled up beside me on the sofa. Her breath brushed lightly against my ear, her damp hair carrying a faint scent of body wash. By reflex, I pushed her away. She raised her eyebrows slightly in surprise but still rested her head on my shoulder and whispered, "Go to bed early." The next morning, I left for work without waking her. By noon, she sent me 2 messages. The first: "You've just been discharged. Don't eat anything cold or raw. I ordered millet seafood porridge for you. Make sure you finish it." The second: "Were you in a bad mood last night? Let's watch a movie this weekend. It's been a long time since we went together." I locked my phone screen, feeling a sharp pain in my stomach. After work, I drove straight to her school to pick her up. Without saying a word, I took Ruyuan directly to the movie theater. She showed no embarrassment at all. Instead, she affectionately linked her arm with mine, her voice gentle as always. The movie itself was unbearably boring. But her phone screen kept lighting up. Halfway through, Ruyuan suddenly said there was an urgent matter at school and she needed to take a call. I nodded. Go ahead, I'll head home after the movie. She probably didn't expect me to quietly follow her. I stepped out of the theater just after she left. Luckily, Ruyuan was walking. If she had taken a taxi, I wouldn't have been able to keep up. Her destination wasn't far, the hospital next to the shopping mall. In the crowded flow of people, her figure stood out clearly. That was why I saw it so clearly. A man rushed out from the internal medicine department and pulled her into a tight embrace. Ruyuan let him hold her. She only turned her face slightly to the side, neither resisting nor responding. When I returned home, Liu Ruyuan was already sitting at the dining table, her head slightly tilted, her eyes fixed on me. I had no intention of explaining anything. As I walked past, she hurriedly grabbed my sleeve and asked softly, "Hubby, what's been going on with you lately? You look exhausted. Is something wrong at work?" She stood on tiptoe, wrapped her arms around my neck, and tried to kiss me. But the image of that man holding her outside the hospital flashed through my mind. I froze, then pushed her away. "Go take a shower," I said bluntly. My voice was cold, filled with disgust. She didn't seem suspicious at all. Before leaving, she even glanced back playfully, as if teasing me. That was Liu Ruyuan. She never guarded herself against me. Her phone wasn't locked. This time, I opened her WeChat. Yesterday, she had used a WeChat account to play games with me, but it was clearly a secondary account. After searching, I discovered she had hidden another WeChat app on a different screen. Logged into a separate account. That account was almost empty, only a few contacts. Her close friend, and one pinned at the very top. Yi Dengcheng. Just as I was looking, a message came in. "Ruyuan, I'm serious. I want to go through every autumn and winter with you. No matter the heat or the cold, not just words through a screen anymore. Ruyuan, when will you tell your boyfriend everything?" My skin prickled. I scrolled up. Their chat history was overwhelming. They talked endlessly, more in a single day than she and I did in an entire month. A month ago, when I went to the Northeast with clients to inspect a project, Ruyuan couldn't come because of school. That day, she called me for half an hour to remind me of everything. That same day was Yi Dengcheng's birthday. In their chat, I saw that they had gone together to the cat cafe Ruyuan and I once visited, the one with the big orange tabby. Someone had taken a photo of Ruyuan smiling sweetly, holding the cat, while his gaze rested on her face, filled with a deep, gentle affection. My hands and feet turned cold. I kept scrolling. She told him about academic pressure, loneliness, exhaustion at home, and their shared gaming sessions. She sent him voice messages, soft, playful, intimate. She shared everything. Even a new plant in my office had to be photographed and sent to him. Those tutoring sessions, she told me about were, in truth, mostly dates with him. Reading this far, my stomach twisted violently. I had just undergone surgery for gastritis, and the pain surged back, worse than before. I doubled over, clutching my abdomen, breathing heavily. I was so absorbed that I didn't notice the water in the bathroom had stopped. The bathroom door opened suddenly. Ruyuan's voice rang out, full of concern. "Hubby, what's wrong? Is your stomach acting up again? Do we need to go to the hospital?" She hurriedly knelt beside me to help me up. The warm scent of body wash filled the air. Strangely, the pain eased slightly. But when I lowered my head, I noticed her phone lying face down on the table, everything important still open on the screen. The last message I managed to read was one she had sent to Yi Dengcheng. "Brother Cheng, actually, I stopped liking him a long time ago. The one I like is you. Since childhood, my parents had always forced me to eat more. Over time, it became a habit. Whenever I felt stressed, I ate excessively. During the suffocating pressure of high school, my weight increased dramatically. In just 1 year, I gained over 30 kilograms. Because I was overweight and quiet, I became an easy target for ridicule. To be honest, I understood them. In such an oppressive environment, everyone needed somewhere to release their negative emotions. But one day, when they started tossing my school bag around like a basketball, I finally snapped. I lost control. All the resentment I had bottled up for years burst out at once. Several of them were suspended for 3 months. After that, no one dared to approach me anymore. No one. Except Liu Ruyuan. I met Ruyuan at the freshman entrance ceremony, when we were both chosen as representatives. She was the female representative, I was the male one. If my moment at the podium was only a brief flicker of light, then she was radiant like the sun. She was smart, beautiful, and lively. The number of boys who liked her was countless. By coincidence, we later attended the same remedial class. Our grades were constantly compared by teachers. And gradually, we became familiar with each other. I knew the girls in class often joked behind our backs, nudging one another and laughing, calling out, "That's your husband." "No, that's yours." But Liu Ruyuan never joined those jokes. As for me, I didn't know when it started. But at some point, I realized I liked her. Perhaps it began that evening in the after-school classroom. She walked in holding her books and sat down beside me. The summer air was heavy and stifling, yet her smile shone brightly. Cutting through the heat, she tilted her head and said, "I just checked the scores. You beat me by 1 point again. You're really good at studying. Can I borrow your brain for a bit?" I only smiled. She didn't know that I had secretly looked at her college preference list long before that, carefully calculating every possibility, wishing with all my heart that we could end up at the same university. In the end, that wish came true. We were admitted to the same school. At the graduation party, a wealthy boy, clearly from a powerful family, confessed to her in front of the entire class. I sat in the back, quietly watching as everyone cheered them on. At that moment, I truly thought she would accept. But she only smiled and declined gently. When the party was nearly over, I sat alone in the far corner of the room. Having grown up accustomed to solitude, I was never good at conversation and always kept my distance from others. Yet she always found me. That night, Liu Ruyuan sat down beside me, resting her chin on one hand, half lidding her eyes as she looked at me. I knew she was watching, but I didn't dare meet her gaze. After a while, her voice drifted over, light as a breeze. "I like you. Do you want to see if we could work?" After we became a couple, I once asked her, "Why do you like someone so ordinary like me?" She only smiled, shook her head, lifted her index finger and gently waved it. "That's not true. In my eyes, you're always shining." But Ruyuan was a very unusual girl. Her sense of boundaries was fragile, almost paper-thin, and her way of thinking was always different from others. So when she betrayed me, I wasn't truly surprised. After falling in love with her, I began to lose weight, work out, and train my social skills through clubs at university. Gradually, I realized I had my own kind of appeal. At a freshman orientation event, a younger student once confessed to me. I turned her down. I had always believed loyalty was the first principle of any relationship. Clearly, Ruyuan didn't think the same way. That night, I woke up in the middle of the night, took the last steak from the fridge, and ate it slowly, gripping a metal fork tightly in my hand. I sighed softly. As expected, I still couldn't escape the habit of eating in moments of despair. I hadn't gained weight in a long time. In fact, the number on the scale had even started to drop. I didn't pay much attention to it, assuming it was just a side effect of the surgery. But the messages I read that night were deeply etched into my mind. I let out a cold, quiet laugh. Liu Ruyuan still hadn't come home. I called her. She answered almost immediately. "Where are you?" I asked. On the other end, wind howled faintly, and her voice sounded hoarse with fatigue. "I just finished tutoring. I'm on my way home. Do you miss me?" If I hadn't already confirmed with her colleagues that there was no tutoring class that day, I might have believed her. Clearly, she had gone to see Yi Dengcheng again. I smiled faintly and said calmly, "Ruyuan, I'll come pick you up." Something in my tone must have alerted her. She fell silent for a few seconds, then forced a cheerful voice. "Okay, I'll send you my location. It's cold outside, dress warmly." The school where Ruyuan taught wasn't far from my place. Late at night, the streets were nearly empty, except for the glow of the night market nearby. She was standing at the entrance of the market, waiting for me. She wore a cream-colored long coat, her makeup flawless, her features sharp and beautiful. She had always stood out in a crowd, never the type to live a quiet, uneventful life. I rehearsed what I wanted to say in my head and walked toward her. Unexpectedly, she rushed into my arms, pressing her head against my chest in a playful manner. "Hubby, look at that frown. Are you really that upset? You don't even look happy to see me?" I looked at her and wondered silently. "Do you know the real reason I'm unhappy?" Street lights reflected off her curved lashes. Smoke from the food stalls drifted through the air, making the scene hazy and unreal. My thoughts were in complete chaos. Is life nothing more than a series of stitched-together scenes, where no one knows when disaster will suddenly strike? I remembered clearly the day I planned to meet Ruyuan to say goodbye. She had lied about tutoring and went to see Yi Dengcheng instead. In their conversation, she had written, "I stopped liking him a long time ago. The one I like is you." Then, when a truck lost control and came straight toward us, the person who rushed forward and pushed me out of harm's way was her. Blood spread across the ground, burning into my vision. I nearly lost my senses. Crawling to her side, desperately checking her injuries, she kept her eyes open and looked at me, saying weakly, "As long as you're okay, that's enough." What I truly wanted to ask was this. "Ruyuan, is it really that hard to stay with one person from beginning to end?" Her injuries were far more serious than I had imagined. With the amount of blood she had lost, there was no way she could simply wake up the next morning as if nothing had happened. She was transferred to the ICU and remained unconscious for 2 or 3 days. During that time, I finally unlocked her phone. Fingerprint technology was indeed convenient. I couldn't stop myself from reading their entire chat history over and over again. Every line, every playful exchange, every late-night message felt like a blade carving into my heart. Even while Ruyuan was unconscious, Yi Dengcheng kept messaging. "The flower shop downstairs just opened. See anything you like? Don't forget to tutor me extra hours this afternoon. Why aren't you replying? Ruyuan, where are you? I went to your school and couldn't find you. Are you okay?" That night, I curled up on the spare hospital bed, holding her phone, scrolling through message after message. He kept sending them, one after another, as if he were talking to someone still right there. Halfway through, I couldn't take it anymore and rushed to the restroom, feeling violently unwell. "Unbelievable, Liu Ruyuan," I muttered hoarsely. A young night shift nurse saw my pale face and frowned slightly. "You don't look well. If you're staying here, you should get a full checkup." I followed her advice. When I returned with the test results in hand, everything began to collapse. I saw a tall, thin man standing outside Ruyuan's hospital room. Sometimes, just a brief glance is enough to sense that something unfortunate is about to happen. I called out to him using his in-game name, Yi Dengcheng. He turned around, startled, surprise flashing in his eyes. There weren't many places nearby to talk, so we went to a small Japanese noodle shop close to the hospital. It was around mid-afternoon, empty and quiet. He rested his head on one hand, absently stirring the noodles in front of him. I asked, "Is Yi Dengcheng your real name?" He looked up, his tone guarded. "So what? You're the one who's been playing games with Liu Ruyuan, right? You knew she was my girlfriend." He shrugged casually. "I didn't know, and even if I did, so what?" I stood up abruptly, my voice cold. So what? Then consider this a lesson. I looked straight at him. Don't pretend. You think I haven't read all your messages? Despite losing weight, my build still far outweighed his. His posture faltered, uncertainty creeping into his eyes. Feelings are complicated, he said, trying to stay calm. If you really love her, maybe you should let her choose someone better. I let out a dry laugh. A betrayer and someone like you, perfectly matched. He shot back. Then why don't you give her to me? I can accept all of her. The anger inside me suddenly drained away, replaced by a bitter smile. My stomach felt like it was burning. I clenched my fists, and he instinctively stepped back. The medical report flashed through my mind. I took a deep breath and said slowly. Fine, when Liu Ruyuan wakes up, you tell her yourself, she's yours. He clearly hadn't expected me to give up so easily. Coincidentally, when we returned to the hospital, the doctor came out and said that Ruyuan had regained consciousness. He rushed into the room, while I followed slowly behind. With her sharp instincts, Ruyuan understood everything the moment she saw us together. Yi Dengcheng stood between us. She and I looked at each other silently. In her eyes, there was still that familiar gentleness, mixed with admiration. A thin beam of light slipped through the door and fell onto the floor. I took a quiet breath and finally said the words I hadn't been able to say before. Ruyuan, let's end this. A long silence followed. She wasn't surprised, she only smiled lightly and said, I should have wiped my phone clean before anything happened. Even now, she could still speak like that. If this had been back in high school, I might have lost control. But now, after saying goodbye, I simply turned and walked away. Behind me, her voice remained calm. Since we've ended things, can we still be friends? I shook my head and pushed the door open. She didn't know that, for me, there would be no future left. That day, 6 hours before Liu Ruyuan woke up, and 20 minutes before I met Yi Dengcheng, I received my own medical results. I had always thought my stomach pain was just a lingering effect of surgery. The night shift nurse often said I looked pale. She had even seen me feeling unwell the night before. The doctor said early-stage illness often shows no obvious symptoms. Pain usually appears only in the middle or later stages. I never imagined there was already a growth beneath the lining of my stomach. In the dim consultation room, my limbs suddenly went numb. My voice trembled as I asked, Doctor, are you sure? I read online, it said that maybe. He frowned and cut me off. Did you come alone? He asked. I'm not trying to scare you. But I'll be honest, we discovered this too late. If you don't begin treatment immediately, you may only have a few months left. You should be admitted right away. Call your family and make a decision soon. Surgery or conservative treatment? I stood there in silence for so long that the doctor finally sighed, patted my shoulder, and added, Don't panic, our hospital specializes in cases like this. We've had many successful outcomes. I sat on the bench in the hallway all morning, my mind completely blank. Why wasn't it found during the last surgery? Why now? Why me? So many things crashing down at once. Was fate trying to take away even my right to live? The doctor asked if I had any family. My mother passed away a year after I graduated college. The relatives on my father's side tore each other apart over my grandfather's inheritance. There was hardly anyone left to contact. Since graduation, the only person by my side had been Liu Ruyuan. She once said that human feelings always grow cold eventually. Now I understood. That was why she no longer loved me. Perhaps we had been together for too long, so long that we forgot what real love felt like. People hurried past in the hallway, all busy with their own lives. Meanwhile, simply existing here felt like a luxury to me. I hadn't thought about my mother in a long time, yet now her face appeared clearly before my eyes. I whispered softly, like a child begging for help. Mom, take me with you. Please, take me. I broke down in tears right there in the hospital corridor. A middle-aged woman passing by couldn't bear the sight. She handed me a tissue, gently placed a hand on my shoulder, and said softly, her voice thick with emotion, "It's okay, young man, don't cry. My son is 11, she continued. We argued the other day. He did something reckless to hurt himself. I regret it so much. There are too many things in life. I shouldn't have acted out of anger." She sighed. Everyone is suffering in their own way. Everyone has burdens, so cherish the people who are still by your side. She probably thought I was a patient's family member. I clenched the medical report in my hand, my heart hollow. Who was there left for me to cherish? That question echoed in my mind, heavy as stone. I suddenly remembered an argument Ruyuan and I once had about who would die first. She said she wanted to go before me, because she couldn't bear living alone. I joked that with my work stress, I'd probably collapse first. She burst into tears, grabbed my hand, and said, "Then I'm yours for life. I'll stay with you forever, until the day you die." Thinking of that, I walked down the hospital stairs toward her room. It was ridiculous. Even now, after her betrayal, after she betrayed our love, my first instinct was still to see her. To ask her which treatment I should choose. But that day, standing in the hallway, seeing the men gathered outside her room, I finally understood, with bitter clarity. Liu Ruyuan was no longer mine. When the last leaf of autumn fell, Liu Ruyuan broke things off with Yi Dengcheng. To her, it was nothing significant. To him, his world collapsed. She lowered her head, said nothing, and blocked the account that kept sending messages. Car horns echoed through the crowded streets. She looked up at the glowing night market. Suddenly, she remembered, 2 years ago, the day Chiboda pushed her out of the path of a runaway truck. It had been exactly 2 years since he left her life. Liu Ruyuan had never doubted that she loved Chiboda. The truth was, that feeling had never faded. Even after they broke up, the turmoil in her heart never truly settled. At times, she hated him so much she couldn't even bear to hear his name. Yet the more she tried to forget, the clearer his image became. That was why she ended things with Yi Dengcheng. She knew reclaiming Chiboda would be incredibly difficult, but she still wanted to try. Was he living well? Did his stomach still hurt? Did he still skip breakfast and drink too much after social gatherings? On lonely nights, in the silence, she thought of him. Even when she looked at Yi Dengcheng, her mind was filled only with Chiboda. Liu Ruyuan was someone who always acted on emotion. If she still loved him, she had to reach out. Her first thought was to add Chiboda on WeChat, but the request was never accepted. His profile picture and username had changed. 2 years ago, when they broke up, Chiboda had cut her off everywhere, cleanly, without looking back. She still remembered asking him, "Can we still be friends in the future?" His final smile had been quiet and distant, like a permanent farewell. He had shaken his head. By all logic, winning him back was nearly impossible, but she believed she might not fail. She knew her own strengths, and his weaknesses. To be honest, most men couldn't bear to see a beautiful woman cry. They softened easily, with just a little vulnerability. A few gentle words, he would surely feel pain for her again. And if she smiled at him, just that, Chiboda would fall all over again. When WeChat failed, she tried other ways to contact him. She discovered he had moved. Strangely, none of her mutual friends had any news about him. Finally, she reached out to one of his old friends. The response was immediate and brutal, then she was blocked. "Live with your regret for the rest of your life," the message said. She stared in disbelief. She believed that if she could just see Chiboda again, everything could still be saved. She knew exactly what he liked, what he hated, and how to make him lose his composure. Those things were etched into her bones. That was why, no matter how much time passed, she never stopped thinking about him. She didn't believe he had truly forgotten her. Everything changed at a class reunion one Saturday. Amid meaningless chatter, someone brought up old stories. Ruyuan had little tolerance for alcohol. After just 2 drinks, she rested her chin in her hand, bored, until she heard his name. Someone sighed. It's such a pity. He passed away so young. Another nodded. I attended his funeral earlier this year. I think it was stomach cancer. Poor guy. His parents were gone too. He died alone. Stomach cancer. Funeral. The words sounded distant, unreal. Ruyuan shot to her feet, drawing every gaze in the room. Her head rang, whether from alcohol or disbelief. She didn't know. They must have mistaken the name. It had to be someone else. But, was Chiboda really gone? Had he been gone for a year already? Did death mean she would never see him again? In desperation, she searched everywhere for proof that he was still alive, proof that everyone was lying. She found nothing. Only an address. And a gravestone. Wind howled across the barren hillside. Mountains and rivers stretched far apart. The dead had gone too far away. When she finally turned back to look for him, even an apology was too late. Memories crashed over her like a storm. From dawn until dusk, she knelt before his grave. When the incense burned away, only she remained, someone who could neither be forgiven nor heard. She hadn't just lost him. She had been abandoned by the world. After that, Liu Ruyuan locked herself inside her apartment, pouring one drink after another into the darkness. Only when her mind blurred could she see him again, squatting in front of her, rubbing her head, saying softly, "What a strange girl. You were the one who stopped loving first. So why are you crying like this now?" From then on, she drifted deeper into confusion. Nights blurred together, pain dulled, but never disappeared. One day, she stood in front of the bathroom mirror for a long time, staring at the woman reflected back at her. Suddenly, the glass shattered. Fragments scattered, reflecting countless distorted faces. She trembled, choking on tears. Why? Why, Liu Ruyuan? Why couldn't you stay loyal to just one person? Why did you leave Chiboda? Why did you believe he would always return and forgive you? Only much later did she realize, she had never truly stopped loving him. Some loves seep into the bone. Inseparable. Leaving him had been frighteningly easy. Losing him was unbearable. And in the end, rumors spread among her circle. If a man even remotely resembled Chiboda, Liu Ruyuan would cross any distance just to see him. The longing for him was numbed that way for a while, until it returned. Violent and overwhelming, like a dam bursting apart. Suddenly, she realized that every face resembled his. Yet none of them were truly him. Each time she caught sight of a familiar profile, nausea surged. She rushed into the restroom, retching until the world spun, before collapsing into darkness. When Yi Dengcheng found Liu Ruyuan, she had locked herself inside the apartment, completely drunk. As the door opened, the heavy scent of alcohol spilled out along with her slender, unsteady figure. She swept her gaze over him from head to toe, then tried to shut the door, but he stopped it with his hand, arms crossing over his chest. "If I hadn't come," he said coldly, "how long were you planning to sink like this?" Even in her fallen state, she carried a presence that made people instinctively wary, like a silent warning. "Don't come closer." She curled her lips into a faint, mocking smile, her eyes gliding over him with indifference. "Are you done talking?" His jaw tightened. "Done?" he snapped. "Liu Ruyuan, you stayed with me for 2 years. How long were you with him? And yet, for a man who's already gone, you destroy yourself like this. What does he have that I don't? Why are you clinging to him like someone who's lost her mind?" She stared at him in silence, her gaze hollow. After a long moment, she spoke, slowly, exhausted. "Come in." At a glance, Yi Dengcheng knew this apartment was where Liu Ruyuan had once lived with Chiboda. Everything was unchanged, the furniture, the paint, even the curtains. Only the coffee table was in chaos, scattered with glasses and fallen bottles. She sat down, her voice low and cold as mist. "Yi Dengcheng, Do you know why I added you in that game back then? She smiled faintly, her eyes distant, as if speaking to someone from the past. Chi Boda probably doesn't remember. When we played for the first time, the very first username he ever used was Yi Dengcheng. That day, we had a fight. When I saw your name appear in the game, it felt like someone was calling his name again. At that time, I didn't love him as deeply as before. To me, you were a new version of him. Another him. That's why I found you interesting. Listening to her dissect her feelings for a dead man, Yi Dengcheng lost control. He raised his hand and struck her, shouting, "You're disgusting." In that instant, he remembered the first time he met Chi Boda, how that man had looked straight at him and said, "Liu Ruyuan is mine." Now, a question surfaced clearly in his mind. Had he been nothing more than a replacement shadow for 3 years? The answer was obvious. He had thought he'd won. But in the end, the one smiling was the man lying beneath the ground. Seeing him spiral, Liu Ruyuan pretended to reach for her phone, saying she would call the police. Yi Dengcheng panicked and fled the apartment. His curses echoed down the hallway. But the door closed, sealing out every sound. Liu Ruyuan turned back and stared into her own eyes in the mirror. Today was important. She didn't want anyone disturbing her. The streets were filled with festive air, lights, music, and voices exchanging blessings. For the first time in half a month, she stepped outside. She had showered, carefully done her makeup, and dressed neatly. December 24th, the day she and Chi Boda had officially become a couple. The city glowed beneath the night sky. In this sleepless metropolis, everyone seemed to have someone to hold hands with. As Liu Ruyuan walked through the crowd, someone suddenly bumped into her. A cheerful voice rang out. "Miss, you're beautiful. Your boyfriend must be giving you flowers here, right? Here, take these." A boy handed her a large bouquet of roses. She froze, clutching the flowers, her heart in turmoil. If only they were from him. If only he were still here. Guilt flooded her chest. Before her thoughts could settle, a woman's voice interrupted gently. "Excuse me, may I buy those flowers from you?" The speaker was a girl with her hair tied up, a sweet smile, kind eyes, the sort who easily put others at ease. She laughed lightly. "My boyfriend's awful. It's Christmas and he didn't give me any flowers. I wanted to buy some and pretend someone else gave them to me, just to tease him. But it's late, and all the flower shops are closed." Liu Ruyuan nodded absent-mindedly and handed over the bouquet. She didn't plan to take the money. But the girl pressed a bill into her hand, thanked her, and walked away. She stood there, unmoving. She remembered that year, how Chi Boda had once made her angry because she thought he'd forgotten this day. But when she opened the refrigerator, it was filled with red roses. In that moment, she had loved him completely, loved him enough to give up everything. Now, that memory nearly drove her mad. If she hadn't done those terrible things, if she hadn't betrayed him, if she had stayed, would they have shared one last Christmas together? She turned to alcohol again. Another bar, another drink, and another. Her tolerance never improved. Each time she threw up. As her mind blurred, she felt as if she could see Chi Boda somewhere nearby, smiling at her. And that night, amid the chaotic crowd, she saw a man whose face looked strikingly like his. She jumped up, pushing through people, running after him in a frenzy. But when she reached the street, the figure had vanished. Another illusion. This time, she collided with the wrong people. "Watch it, are you blind?" a large man snarled, grabbing her arm and yanking her aside. Several men gathered, dragging her into a dark alley. Outside, the city was too loud, too bright. No one heard what happened between those cold walls. "Got any money?" one of them sneered. They searched her pockets, finding nothing but a small ring. When the streetlight reflected off it, Liu Ruyuan suddenly woke up. She tried to snatch it back, but the man lifted it high, mocking her. The ring. A gift from Chi Boda. The last thing she had. the final thread tying her to him. She struggled desperately, but they surrounded her. Blows, laughter, chaos, then she collapsed. Through the haze, she saw the ring roll across the concrete. She crawled forward, trembling, clutching it tightly. When they realized it was worthless, they tossed it aside and left as if discarding trash. She held the ring to her chest, as if holding her own soul. Damn, she's not dead. Right? Someone muttered. Forget it, let's go. Footsteps faded. She didn't know how much time passed. Her body felt like it was being torn apart. She truly thought she was dying. Yet, strangely, she smiled faintly. Winter really is cold, she thought. If I lie here like this, will I ever wake up again? No one cared what happened in that alley. Not far away, on the lively avenue, decorated vehicles rolled slowly past, music and laughter echoing through the night. Liu Ruyuan wasn't sure if she truly opened her eyes. She only felt her lashes tremble. Her gaze pulled toward the street beyond. There, a man gently coaxed the girl beside him. She held a bright bouquet of flowers. She smiled playfully. All right, I won't tease you anymore. Guess where I got these? The man asked, curious. Who gave them to you? She laughed softly. Liu Ruyuan, I think she used to be your ex-girlfriend. The man scratched his head, frowning. Oh, she was there too? The girl twirled a petal and nodded. I think she still loves you. She probably believes you're dead. She doesn't look like she's doing well. He shrugged, his tone indifferent. It all started because one of my friends wanted to mess with her. Then everyone joined in. I moved overseas later, and they even made a fake gravestone, telling her I died, so she'd believe it. He chuckled softly, with a trace of bitterness. A joke, really, but I didn't die. The doctor said surviving was a miracle. I was more afraid they'd curse me to death. And Liu Ruyuan? He shook his head. That has nothing to do with me anymore. People have to move on. Honestly, after surviving illness, these relationship troubles don't seem important at all. He yawned, wrapped an arm around the girl's shoulder, and smiled. Come on, love, don't be mad anymore. Get in the car. I have a surprise for you. As the clock struck midnight, snowflakes drifted down from the dark sky. Stars shimmered, neon lights glowed, and bells rang, announcing the beginning of a new year. That's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like the video, subscribe to China Story Tales, and stay tuned for more stories.